Good afternoon. Welcome. It is 2 o'clock and 2 o'clock on the afternoon of November 29th, 2023. I'd like to call this meeting of the Oak Harbor City Council. This is a workshop meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order at this time. This will be both a physical meeting and a virtual meeting. Some members of city staff and consultants may be participating via teleconference. Today's meeting may be viewed live on YouTube, Facebook, and available for viewing after the meeting on cable channel 10, HD 1090. Public comment is not normally taken at workshop meetings, although the council may allow or request public participation. We have no items for action by the council on our agenda today, so we'll move right to the first item, which is an oath of office, and this is for our city council positions 3 and position 4. The November 8th general election was certified by the canvassing board for Island County yesterday. Position 3 is a short and long-term seat. The elected council person for this seat is Councilmember Eric Marshall, who ran unopposed. Councilmember Marshall will then take the oath again for his full term beginning January 1st. So you get to do 2 oaths, Councilor Marshall. Position 4 is a 2-year unexpired term seat. Barbara Arms is the elected council person for this seat. So at this time, I'd like to turn to our city clerk, who will administer the oath of office for both. Clerk Julie.
Thank you, Mayor. If I could have the councilpersons-elect join me, we'll start with Councilmember Marshall. Yes. All right. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
Eric Marshall.
Do solemnly swear or affirm
Do solemnly swear or affirm
that I am a citizen of the United States and the state of Washington,
that I am a citizen of the United States and the state of Washington,
that I am legally qualified to assume the office
that I'm legally qualified to assume the office
of City of Oak Harbor Council Member, Position 3,
of City of Oak Harbor Council Member, Position 3,
that I will support the Constitution and laws
that I will support the Constitution and laws
of the United States and the state of Washington,
of the United States and the state of Washington,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of this office
discharge the duties of this office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. All right.
This way. Come on. Oh, that's sacred.
I'm just my sister-in-law.
I just didn't want to do anything I wasn't supposed to.
It's my sister-in-law.
All right. If you will raise your right hand and repeat after me. I
I, Barbara Arms,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I am a citizen of the United States and the state of Washington,
that I am a citizen of the United States and the state of Washington,
that I am legally qualified to assume the office
that I'm legally qualified to assume the office
of City of Oak Harbor Council Member, Position 4,
a City of Oak Harbor Council Member, Position 4,
that I will support the Constitution and laws
that I will support the Constitution and laws
of the United States and the state of Washington,
of the United States and the state of Washington,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of this office
discharge the duties of this office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Clerk Julie. So, Councilmember Arms, we welcome you to the, is it dais or dais?
My wife is counting.
Dais, and excited to have you join us. Nice to have full council, and welcome back, Councilor Marshall.
We miss you.
Yeah. So with that, we will start with our regular agenda now and the Development Services Department. And I believe we've got a couple of items that they'll be presenting today. First is the Conditional Use Permit Ownership Code Amendment. And for that, I believe we'll have our Senior Planner, Ray Lindenberg. Ray's on the video there. Welcome, Ray.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. I was meeting with somebody and didn't have a chance to check in early, so here I am. Today, we're talking about a minor code amendment to kind of correct some issues that we've had in the past with regards to how conditional use permits get transferred from one owner to the next in the case of a property change, of a purchase of a property or a business. And so I'm going to put up a quick presentation here, and we'll take a quick look at that and answer any questions if you have them when I'm done. So what we have is the existing code language makes it so that a conditional use permit has to go through a second conditional use hearing and approval in the case that the business or property is transferred to a new owner. So essentially, if you have a business that has a conditional use or a property that has a conditional use on it, you have to go through that process again in order to transfer that to the new owner. The new owner has to go through that process. And we had that happen a couple of times in the last month or two. And so it's kind of an additional hoop to jump through and a little bit extra work for a new property owner. And we feel as staff that it's not really necessary to go through that. And we did some research and found out that we are the only city of our comparable peer cities list that requires that. So you can see the language up there. It talks about how it shall not be transferable to a subsequent user unless specifically authorized. And so we went through, like I said, our peer cities. We have about 10 or 12 cities that are similar size to the city of Oak Harbor in the state of Washington. Several of them explicitly allow the conditional use to quote unquote run with the land. Essentially, once you get a conditional use for a business or for the land, it follows that business or land, not the owner or the operator of the business. There are a handful of others that do not specifically address how transfers are handled. However, their practice and their interpretation is to have it, again, run with the land. And so essentially what we did is we looked at 12 different cities. We got responses from 10. I had some further conversations with planners in those cities, and we are the only one. We're out on a limb here that requires a new owner to receive a second conditional use or a revised conditional use, go through that full process again. So our proposal is to streamline the process by striking that first sentence there and replacing it with a new sentence where it says, granted conditional use permit may continue as long as all the conditions of issuance are met, irrespective of the ownership of the property, business, service, use, or structure, which was the subject of the original conditional use, unless a specific expiration date is listed in the conditional use permit. And we did contact our city attorney to go through that, and they were able to review it and deemed it acceptable from their standpoint. So we're happy with that wording. The second thing that we wanted to do there was to maintain some zoning consistency by introducing a new criteria to the conditional use that says a conditional use that ceases occupancy or active use at the approved location for a continuous period of a year shall not be allowed thereafter to continue. And they would need to get a new conditional use permit. Essentially, that mirrors what our existing non-conforming uses have to do. If it's a use that was approved under a special review process, a conditional use, then we feel that it should probably go back through if it's been idle or discontinued for more than a year. So that's something that we added in there as well. So that is the extent of what we're proposing here. Pretty straightforward, hopefully makes things a little bit more streamlined for business owners and property owners in the city. If you have any comments or concerns, I'm here to assist with that. And then you see the future steps there. We went through the state review with Department of Commerce and SEPA review, and we presented to the Planning Commission in a public hearing next month on the 12th, I believe. And then we'll come back to you if everything goes well for a review and adoption.
Thank you, Ray. Appreciate your presentation here. Like to turn to council then for questions. Councilor Wiesner.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, and thank you for that, Ray. And yeah, you know, another well-intentioned ordinance that was written, you know, years back that, well-intended obviously had several flaws, right? Number one, almost impossible to enforce, right? Unless we were going to become the watching every sale and every transaction of every property with conditional uses in the city, right? It's kind of a self-policing written ordinance, you know, and unfortunately, right, the enforcement of it also, you know, it came with, you know, some issues, right? Are we going to walk into a business that changed hands and sold and happens to be operating under conditional use and was continuing to operate, and then we're going to shut that business down because the owner sold it and the new owner did not, you know, follow a odd ordinance that we had written here that you know, isn't familiar in other cities. So again, I appreciate you going through these. I know that it's been very painstaking, and I know it's going to be an ongoing process for us to continue to go through some of these older ordinances and find out where we're, you know, preventing things from progressing forward, right? As a city, part of what we're supposed to do is help that progression forward and help it in a logical and orderly fashion, right? And when you have ordinances that are counterintuitive to that, it makes that process almost impossible. So, you know, I appreciate you picking this up, grabbing it. It obviously it's a pretty simple change in language, but it's a huge change, right? And it's a logical change, and like you say there, by having item 4 in there, it does give us some control, and does keep us aligned with the way we handle, you know, quite a bit of stuff in the city, you know, including, you know, inactive, you know, business components, right, where after they've been active for a year, you know, we get to a little bit of say upon that reoccupancy. So yeah, I just appreciate the time. It's hopefully we can just continue, you know, picking through these, and we'll continue to give you the support you need to make the changes that make sense. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Wiesner. Anyone else for input? Okay. Nice job. Nice job, Ray. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd say you could have the rest of the day off, but I'd probably get in trouble. Okay, we'll go to Development Services B, code changes relating to subdivisions. And for this, today, we have our Development Services Director, David Kuhl. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Today, in the continuing series of improvements and logical progression in our zoning ordinance changes, I have the Section 21, Title 21, which is the subdivision ordinance. And so I'm here to help the engineering department a little bit. We're working together on this to make sure that we clean up some of the engineering standards and processes to make it more efficient for developers and for the city. So Title 21, subdivision code update. There's 3 provisions we want to talk about today in 21. Section 2130.020 subsection G, which is an engineering deposit. Now that'll be something that's new. It would require the deposit from the engineering, private engineering firms to do as part of the review by the city engineer. So if you approve this code change, the deposit will be created in the fee schedule. So we'll come back to you later with a fee schedule update to add a deposit. And that amount will be established by our city engineer, Mr. Alex Warner, and he'll also establish it before any reviews are conducted. So currently, the hourly rate kicks in to cover the cost of inspecting and reviewing construction plans. So that's already in our code. This plan review deposit will apply to the balance due when it's calculated at the civil permit issuance. So what currently happens is we had a situation where a subdivision came in, it was reviewed many times over many years. You might be familiar with the Gary Oaks subdivision. It went on and on and on, and so the bill just kind of went up and up and up and up. We wound up charging the eventual owner $49,000 in fees that had not been charged to them earlier. So this deposit will offset those expenses. So they'll come in, put in a deposit for engineering review, and then they'll work it off over time. So this will also allow us to use a third-party reviewer. Currently, we use a company called Semrau Engineering, and we could find other engineering firms as well who help us with specific details on projects where we might not have the depth of staff or the time to be able to review it. And so third-party reviewers will be allowed to review private engineering plans. The second change we'd like to talk about in the subdivision ordinance today is a time extension. And this goes back to what Councilman Wiesner was talking about earlier today, where we have a lot of codes that are outdated. We have some language in our code currently that was recessionary stuff. Back in 2008, 2009, a provision was created to allow an extension of subdivisions for a certain period of time. Well, that language never got taken out of the code. And then, before it was even taken out, another provision came in that gave a 7-year extension to plans. So what this current code would do, it takes a subdivision plat and submit it to the city. You get 5 years to get your final plat approved. In addition, the subdivider must receive approval of construction and installation of all improvements, or if they want, they can bond for the improvements, and that's at 5 years. The new code will allow a subdivider to go on with the preliminary approval and get a 1-year extension to 6 years. The new code would also allow it to go to 2 years. So as I was mentioning earlier, there were provisions in the code that allows 7 years and longer for the code, for the subdivision to be changed. This will automatically put it in there and give you 5 years plus an automatic 2. And this might help a subdivider who maybe runs into problems, maybe the economy goes south, maybe something happens in their personal life and they need more time to do something. So this will build it in to provide more continuity for subdivisions. The third change we'd like to propose today is a digital submission of subdivision plans. Current code requires a Myar of the final subdivision plat to be produced by the subdivider and recorded at the county auditor's office. Well, we've had private firms come in here and say, you're the last agency around that requires Mylars anymore. It's all done with a digital submittal. And so we're requesting consideration of the council to just submit it digitally and process it directly to the county auditor's office. So those are 3 big changes we'd like to make. They seem inconsequential, but in reality, it makes a big deal, I think, in the life of our customers as well as the staff. So next up is a planning commission hearing on December 12th, and we'll be coming back to you with all the holidays and all that, January 16th of 2024. So I'm available for any questions you might have.
Okay, turn to council. Councilor Burns.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Cool, how often do you see us using that third-party reviewer use? I mean, that's a cost thing. If we don't have the staff to handle it, and we have to go out, and if we're going out all the time, then why not have another staff member instead of waiting to send it out and then waiting for it to come back?
Well, the third-party reviewer is a company that Alex has on board, and I'm sure he can answer that question. It's a firm that we pull from a roster, and we can use these firms to get involved in detail at times when maybe a stormwater issue we aren't sure of, and engineers need some help calculating that. But I'll let Alex go ahead and answer that question.
Thanks. Yes, Alex Warner, city engineer. For example, the Cimarron contract for this year, we had for about $60,000, and we've used $20,000 of that. I filter out the projects that are larger, more complex, and send them out to that third-party engineering firm, because that can take tens of hours per week, depending on the complexity and the size of the project, and we have to meet certain deadlines. So as we're operating now, nearly, I would say, 19 out of 20 reviews we're doing in-house with our staff. But we like to have that reserve in case we have a big project like the Village of Gary Oaks or a Hillside project come in that we can send out, have that, added capacity, meet those deadlines, and have that added expertise.
Is Cimarron the one you're going to keep sending it out to, or do you have another company that will help handle these extra reviews?
Yeah, the intention is to continue with Cimarron through the end of this next year. I'll be bringing that to council in December.
Okay, and they're on the MRSC roster?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, they are.
All right, thanks. The other question I had was about the digital. It sounds reasonable instead of the Mylar to have the digital, so I wasn't quite sure. We get the digital from them and we send it to the county, or they send it directly to the county when they send it to us? Wasn't quite sure on that one.
That is a great question. I don't know if have we been through this process yet?
I haven't processed one that way yet.
Okay, we're continuing with the Mylar now, so I think we'll need to work through that and see exactly how it gets to the county. We'll communicate with them and determine that. I don't have an answer for you at this time.
Okay. Has this hurt some of the building and doing the permitting and plans because they have to have a Mylar and they don't have anybody on their staff now that can do it? They only do it digitally. So I'm trying to get a picture. Is this an urgency that we should really step up on and try to get it done as quickly as possible to switch over?
I've heard from some engineering firms that they have trouble finding printing companies that utilize Mylar anymore. Yeah, in addition, it's an added cost. So if we no longer need the Mylar and it's becoming more and more difficult for them to obtain it, I think that's the benefit we're looking for to going digital.
Okay, and so is there a way to, I'm just seeing, I don't want money to go, possibility, new developments and things to go out of the city because I'm not paying for that thing. I'm going to find someplace else to put it. Do you see the urgency, like you're hoping to have this done by January 30th of 2024? Or, I mean, it's one thing, oh, well, we're looking into it. Okay, looking into it could be 8 months or it could be 4, do you see a kind of, do you have any type of timing you could let us know?
Good question. We really don't have a set timeline on this. We're just doing it to try and get it into the current 21st century. The Mylar is just something that people don't use anymore. And so going to a digital format is going to make it easier for internal staff because we're already sharing things electronically, and it will also make it easier for our applicants because they produce the documents electronically today. And that way they don't have to go to the Mylar type format. So we don't have anybody that's pounding the door right now to get this done today, but we just think it's better to go ahead and get it done.
With the new software investment we've done for development services, will this be an easy transition to just zip it in, or it's kind of already happening now and we just need to legislation-wise, the council say, oop, no Mylar, you do it digitally, and just, I mean, I'm trying to get a concept. It sounds like we're, no offense, but we're like, we know the fix, we know this is what's happening, it's an extra expense for a company, but yet it seems like we're dragging our feet when if we're kind of already using these. I'm just a layperson, but I'm listening to what's happening, and as you say, we're already getting it, doing a lot digitally, then, do you see my confusion?
I do. You wonder why we haven't gotten here before you already, probably. And so it takes us a while to catch up, and we're finally there.
Okay.
And so we're ready to move forward.
And so it won't be any extra cost or just a slight adjustment to your software program that you've been using and developing?
There will be no additional cost for us. In fact, it will save time because a lot of what we do is electronic anyway. And currently, when people come in to request public records that are still on Mylars, we have to put those in the plotter and scan them, and it can take several minutes to scan one sheet using the old technology to get it into the current technology. So today, by having all this created electronically, it'll feed right into our electronic permitting system and be processed quickly and make our life a lot easier.
Will you have to hang around with that Mylar equipment until you know no one's going to come in 10 years and ask for it? I mean, do we have to have someone digitize the Mylars that we have when they have the free time, I'm guessing?
We do. In fact, the records department downstairs is actively scanning documents as we speak. And I think there are grants they're trying to get so they can get more of those big Mylars scanned electronically. The goal, of course, is to make it all electronic and all available on our website so that the public records requests will diminish some because people will be able to do their own research online. We're still catching up. We'll get day-to-day public records requests, and we have to send somebody to the plotter to scan it by hand and get it electronic for people, but it just takes a little longer for us to catch up.
That's fantastic. That is really fantastic. Glad to hear. And if they need Red Bull, I'll buy the case so they can stand there and just wait for that little machine to work.
Thank you.
Councilor Wiesner.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Cool. Yeah, obviously Mylar, I can't tell you how many times I took it around and I was on the 7th or 8th signature of 9 or 10 and somebody's title changed and, you know, we had to go back to square one, draw up a new Mylar at a considerable expense, start at the beginning because that's the way those worked. Any change to that document whatsoever, you started from scratch, and sometimes it would be a simple spelling error that we would catch, you know, at the very end, very last signature, and you're back to scratch. And then again, you have to nowadays convert that to digital. So starting with digital makes a lot more sense. Obviously, both gathering the signatures, making adjustments to the document, recreating the document, as well as simply filing the document with the county, because the county is going to take whatever you turn into them in Mylar and they're going to digitize it. So glad to hear we're making that change. It is going to not only cut down on expense, you know, I can remember, I think paying $350, $400 a set for those Mylars, and you know, having to go through 4 or 5 sets sometimes, you know, just to get everybody finally around to sign. So, you know, we're talking a few $1,000s, but we're also talking time because each time I'd have to recreate a new one and start over again. And I can remember sometimes the frustration was that process would take 2.5 or 3 months, and again, personnel would actually change during that time, and that would then change the title on the Mylar. So accuracy is important when recording those type of documents, and so this is going to give that ability for flexibility, yet keep everything accurate, and it's going to save steps for us in the digitizing process, and obviously save time. So great job, and like you say, the time extension, I think that the other thing about going to the 2 years, I think that jives with our current time extensions we allow on building permits. If I'm not mistaken, it's a 2-year extension, and I think everything pretty much we have in development code, that extension time period isn't a year, it's a 2 year. So this was kind of the oddity of the bunch. So, and obviously that cleans that up. So like I was saying to Ray, these are just, it's things that I know you have to fit into your already busy schedule, right? You're already still processing permits. That doesn't stop. All that doesn't stop. This is just extra work, but at the same time, the extra work ends up saving a whole lot of work, time, frustration in the long run for not only the people that we work with, our customers, but obviously internally, right? So I appreciate the effort and the extra time, and keep bringing them our way, and we'll keep giving you the support you need to get the job done. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Cool. We appreciate it. We'll then move on then to our next section, which is finance. The next one is enterprise resource planning, request for proposals update. And we have our Deputy City Administrator and Finance Director, Mr. David Goldman. Mr. Goldman?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, Council, David Goldman, Deputy City Administrator. So this is an update to the enterprise resource planning item. So if you some of you might recall, we first brought this to the council initially in January 2021 to provide an overview of what an ERP is. And then we brought it back in 2022, and the council approved about $500,000 of ARPA funding in 2022. So just to give another quick overview of what an ERP is for folks who may have forgotten over the last 2 years, or new folks who are on the council. An ERP is generally a software system that integrates all city finance, purchasing, billing, payroll, timekeeping, and other business data onto a shared platform. The software is designed around your organization's processes and procedures, and the software can be used either from the ERP vendor or from another vendor that's linked into the ERP system through database connections. So the current software that we're utilizing for our payroll and accounting and all the main core functions that the city does is about 20 years old. We received, and of course all the other users of this software in the region and across the country received notice that it'll be sunsetted in the next few years. So based on the feedback we've received, we went to council last year, and council provided $500,000 of council priority project funding, formerly known as ARPA funding. We provided extensive outreach and research on the RFP, that's the request for proposal development for this ERP system, and we reached out to relevant vendors. And we opened up the RFP window for 6 weeks earlier this year, and we received 2 responses. So with those responses, we recruited staff members from throughout the city who would be mainly utilizing the ERP system. Along with our IT consultants. They were invited to review the proposals. The vendors came on site for multiple days to demonstrate their products and to answer staff questions. And based on this process, we narrowed down the selection to the top vendor, and we are planning to bring an agreement to council approval for next month. So the main benefits of an ERP, or enterprise resource planning system, are to speed up and improve processes, to share information organization-wide, to reduce paper and chances for losses and errors, enhanced financial and capital project reporting, and also an enhanced customer service experience. Here are some selected summaries of the new functionality that a new ERP system will have. First is electronic timekeeping. It will allow us to move away from our paper-based system to an electronic type of system, which will increase the accuracy and tracking of time and approvals. It will reduce errors, and it will provide a verifiable allocation of staff time that can be used for to allocate to grants, which will reduce direct expenses to city funds. Electronic workflows. So by moving away from paper-based to electronic workflows, there'll be no waiting for inter-office mail to arrive or potentially be misplaced. The routing for approval will be defined by the departments in the organization with automatic notifications for quicker and more efficient processes. Hundreds of processes can be monitored by the system at the same time, and this will allow for quicker payments to vendors, and some vendors do provide discounts if you pay them within the first 10 or 20 or 30 days, so that might be a benefit there too. The electronic document management system, again, moving away from paper-based and, with the paper filed in various rooms or filing cabinets in different parts of the city to an electronic storage. So the documents will automatically be indexed with optical character recognition, or OCR, for quick and efficient searches and document retrieval. All the information relevant to a purchase, to a revenue, or to an expense will be accessible just by the click of a button. It'll seamlessly integrate between the different ERP modules, and the documents will be in a highly secure storage system. Business, data analytics, and business intelligence. So business information can be viewed directly in the system without the need to export and manipulate in Excel or Microsoft Access. You can still do that. And actually, if you go ahead and want to export to Microsoft Excel, you can have the fields linked directly to the system so that they update daily. Instead of having to re-download everything and rejigger all the formatting, which can take a while, you do it once, and then you have a direct connection to the system so you can update on your customizable spreadsheet pretty quickly. There'll be a toolbox available for users to create customized information views, and it'll be very helpful for forecasts, trends, and metrics. Can be all utilized for business intelligence in the system. Also, there's the opportunity for citizen self-service. Citizens or residents or business owners can secure online access to account information from anywhere. They can inquire and pay outstanding bills, upload documents to and download info from the system a lot more seamlessly and integrated than they do now. And there'll be an opportunity to request services, like if there's a pothole somewhere or some other city service that is requested, they can log in and put it directly in the system, and those requests will be routed directly to the relevant department. So here are all the steps to select an ERP. We're past step 6, right before step 7. That'll be the score and rank the proposals and bring those official scores and ranks to the city council next month for the staff recommendation, and also with a demonstration from the vendor where we're coordinating a time for the vendor to come out and be here in person to show what the software system can do for the city. And then at that time, we'd ask for the city council to vote on the contract. So that would be the next step, bring the contract to city council approval for next month. And staff is available to field any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Goldman. So I'll turn to council, see if there's any questions at this point. Councilor Munns.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Goldman, how many other cities use this particular program that we're updating to?
The one that we're going towards, or the one that we're utilizing now?
No, the one we're going towards.
Hundreds, and there's a lot in the northwest part of the country. They're in Florida, it's in California, it's all over. So it's one of the bigger ones.
Okay, thanks, appreciate it.
Sure, no problem.
Councilor Stuckey.
So $500,000 is a little bit of loot. It's important that we can convey value to the public who may not see that because it's an internal program for the most part. One complaint that we see is, the difficulty in paying utility bills online. Is this going to make that a little easier for our community?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the plan. Right now, I believe you have to kind of do a double creation of an account. It's just the way things are set up right now with our processors. We're looking to eliminate that, make things a lot more seamless, try to make it look and feel a lot more like when you log into, I don't want to use company names, but your electric company, for example. You'll be able to see your usage and history, and it'll just be a lot easier and more user friendly. And you could also upload documents, download documents a lot easier, and do some of those other things we don't really do now, as far as putting in service requests and things that would automatically get routed directly to the department, or the section within the larger public works department to handle.
And assuming we're chugging along with no hiccups, when would the average customer be able to see these changes, say paying utility bills? Are we looking middle of next year, late next year? Do we have a guess?
Well, we're waiting for the statement of work to come out, and usually with these systems, the first thing they want to do is convert all the internal general ledger accounts and the accounting system first, and then move right on to payroll and make sure that we have the right payroll codes in there, that we're doing timekeeping efficiently and smoothly. That can take a while. And then after that, we'll be looking to focus more on some of those other modules. So probably late next year or maybe early 2025. But we're going to move as fast as possible. But we do want to make sure, like, the implementation is probably the most important thing when you're going forward with one of these projects. I mean, you can select, a vendor with great software and have everything that you need. But if the implementation isn't coordinated well, it doesn't work well between the processes that you have in your organization and the software company itself, that can lead to delays with implementation. And we're looking to avoid that. So we want to ensure that we do everything we can to utilize the funding that is provided wisely, efficiently, and we move forward in a way that things work as expected.
Sounds great. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Goldman.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. More to come, certainly. That'll be interesting. And you don't have to spend the entire amount if you don't want to, right? Okay.
No.
I had to say that. I just had to say that. Engineering, next on our agenda. Geographic Information System, GIS update with our city engineer, Alex Warner. Alex, nice to see you.
Good to see you again, Mayor, council members. Yes, I'm Alex Warner, your city engineer. So today, I'm very excited. There's a bit of a theme going on here today. I think it's modernizing, digitizing, so we'll continue with that theme here. So as part of our fairly annual GIS update for you, I'm proud to present the city's first GIS Strategic Plan. So we had intended to have one of our engineering technicians, John, and Flow Analytics consulting partner be with us, but unfortunately they aren't able to make it. But we do have our newest engineering technician, Megan Brody. So she will be co-presenting with me today. So to give you some background, the GIS it stands for Geographic Information Systems. It's a visual format to provide mapping and analysis services. We've partnered with Flow Analytics through our AWC GIS Consortium, as they call it, to help municipalities build up their GIS services. So in the spring of last year, we presented to you a GIS update, and that's when we first launched our publicly available web tool. We continue to develop that. We're building it out. A big focus is getting all of our utility information out there to the public, make it easily accessible. So later in that year, 22, Flow Analytics recommended the next logical step is to create this GIS strategic plan. They've done so with other municipalities. It's a good way to lay the groundwork with how we can, build out our GIS services even further. So we started that earlier this year with Flow and our engineering staff. We conducted interviews internally with different departments throughout the city, including development services, finance, police, fire, parks and rec, and public works. So what we were trying to achieve there was seeing what those departments could benefit from having a more robust GIS system. And that work is summarized and encapsulated in the GIS Strategic Plan, which is provided in your packet. So some achievements since spring of last year, we've made those web applications live for development services that's focused on land use, public works focused on utilities and streets, and Parks and Rec is focused on the amenities they provide. Also, we have some GIS integration into our llama permitting software, FirstDue, which the fire department utilizes. We just went through and located and named and inventoried every fire hydrant. Yes. I did notice the one on my street was not painted with the new notification, so I put a complaint into GIS and fire department.
And we'll route that to the right facility to have that done.
Yeah, it'll come to me. And we also have NPDES Pro, that's to meet our stormwater permit for their needs. We've also integrated some community gathered data, including all of the Gary Oak locations through the Sound Oaks Initiative. And then again, this is really in the name of efficiency and making things more publicly available. It reduces, load on staff responding to, utility questions and things like that. If we can make it available to the public, they can have the questions answered for themselves. I'll turn it over to Megan.
All right, thanks, Alex. So as Alex mentioned, Flow Analytics conducted a needs assessment and produced a GIS strategic plan for the city. And this GIS strategic plan gave us a better idea not only of what our current GIS goals are, but a roadmap on how to achieve those goals. So we had participation from 6 departments, and there were 4 concrete objectives that stood out among all departments as really important, which were to improve communication with citizens, make data more accessible to staff, reduce data silos, and eliminate data redundancy. Currently, engineering hosts the majority of GIS data in the city, and some GIS services provided by engineering to other departments are to manage utility and asset data, provide other departments with GIS data, present maps and digital mapping applications, and develop digital field data collection tools. So engineering will continue to be the central location for GIS data storage and management. There is a need for a GIS project request system, and we're currently workshopping a template provided by Flow Analytics. This will be available pretty shortly, and will essentially be a platform for other departments to continue sending in GIS project requests, data requests, and input for improvement. So speaking of input for improvement or feedback, each department is going to be vital in moving this project forward. Regular GIS meetings with data stewards from each department will allow for more collaboration, knowledge sharing, data sharing, and just kind of guide engineering in our effort to create this unified system. Some outcomes for these meetings would be to establish data deliverable requirements, not only within the city, but for external parties such as consultants and contractors. We'd like to create a data management plan and just identify additional mapping applications that could benefit other departments. So here's a diagram showing each department that was involved in the GIS needs assessment interviews. This shows the needs of each department as well as how their data could contribute to an overall city GIS database. We had involvement from Parks and Rec, which emphasized a need for field data collection and asset management. Development Services, which needs GIS analysis for use in planning, as well as data layers for permitting in critical areas. The Police Department expressed a need for field data collection tools. The Fire Department wishes for updated inventory layers on fire department-related assets, which has been completed. Engineering has interest in maintaining utility data and using existing data for analysis and to serve other departments. And the Finance Department has a need to track capital improvement projects and have a visual representation of them within a mapping system. So the document outlines a long list of recommendations from Flow Analytics, and these can be found on there's a recommendations table on page 97 of the meeting packet. So after discussion, the engineering department chose to focus on these 7 recommendations, which were to develop a GIS project request system, assign GIS data stewards from city departments, create a data management plan, coordinate regular GIS meetings, determine data deliverable requirements, acquire proper Esri licensing, and continue developing solutions for public and city staff. So some main takeaways from this document, the needs assessment was great. It provided us with a kind of a wish list of GIS items from other departments. A lot of these items have already been implemented. Some of them are still in the works. But we want to continue getting this great feedback and these great ideas from other departments, which is why we are going to create the GIS project request system. And we're also going to begin organizing regular GIS meetings with our departments to form ideas and share opinions. We have a little bit more internal work to do in engineering before we begin those, but we'd like to start those meetings sometime in the new year. All right. Oops, it's stuck in my sleeve. There you go.
Thanks, Megan. So we've covered what we've done in the past, what we're currently doing, and this is looking forward to the future. So we've contacted Esri. They are the ones that provide the Arcgis software to discuss how we can achieve these goals. We have a fairly basic license we're utilizing now. They have different tiers that they can recommend to allow for these additional services. We've gotten one quote from them. We're not planning to take any action on that at this time. But some of these services include the Cloud Enterprise Agreement, which there's more information in your packet about that. But some other cities in the area that utilize that: Gig Harbor, Blaine, Paulsbo, Milton, Black Diamond. So again, that can increase our level of service for a associated yearly cost. And we may be bringing that in 2024 to council for action. So we can take any questions you may have.
So before I turn to council, I'd like to say thank you, Alex, always, and welcome, Megan. This is, as you may have heard, that I'm a map guy. I don't know how many times I'm looking for a map, and Mr. Oborn gets sick and tired of me saying, do you have a map? I'd like to see a map. Maps tell us so many things, and when this GIS first came to the AWC, I was at a conference and got to listen, and from my past experience in title insurance, we live off maps, and it's so exciting about the additional information that GIS will bring for our citizens, and we're moving into the current century. Thank you to the both of you. So I'll turn to council. Councilor Muntz?
Thank you, Mayor. I remember that too, being so excited at an AWC conference. They had a screen and they kind of walked through, they had some questions and how it could be done with the GIS system stuff. And I'm not sure all these council members that are new have been exposed to that. So sometime if there could be a separate small workshop to have them be as excited as your department is, because it really, fire and police and, it just, in so many ways, it's just like a boom kind of moment. If that could be done, I would encourage it, because you hear GIS, but most people, I don't have a clue, or in one ear and out the other. So I would make that suggestion sometime in the next year. Might be very helpful. Thank you so much, both of you. Nice to meet you, Megan. Congratulations. Welcome to the team.
It's a great idea. Councilor Muntz, thanks. Councilor Stuckey?
Yeah, there's a lot of information there. And for the hundreds of thousands of people who are watching this meeting online, they may be thinking, okay, what? Because 3 years ago, I didn't know what GIS was. But to give a practical example, Captain Slowick cued me in on the app, Arcgis, on the iPhone. So I downloaded it, not knowing quite what I was doing. And it's amazing because you're right, it is a map. And even if you're somebody who isn't a real estate agent, for example, it's so cool to be able to just look up your property. Am I in city limits? Am I not in city limits? Who owns that property? Maybe you're thinking, oh, my neighbor's a renter, but who actually owns it? You just click on it and it tells you. It tells you market values and properties. So I think we can, honestly, it's a lot of work and it's great work, but I think we could do a little bit on letting people know what's, for the average person, what's it do? I've discovered it now. It's great for finding if something in city limits or not. It's great to find out who owns property. Just those two things alone, I don't think the average person knows about. It's just a wonderful thing that I think we could do a good job of communicating to the average person. What does this mean practically? And having it on your iPhone or a smartphone, so you're not sitting there on a computer, it's just wonderful. I think it's great stuff. And now that I know more about it, and I probably know this much about it, it's an awesome system, as you were mentioning, Councilmember Munn. So thank you so much for what you do. The person who has to manually put in all those things, man, my hat's off to you folks, because not something I could do. So thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. Great presentation, exciting.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you.
We'll move on then to our next section. Looks like last section before city council comments. So administration, under A, we have a discussion of legislative priorities. And this afternoon, we have our Executive Services Administrator, Sabrina Combs. Welcome, Sabrina.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
And our photographer.
I'm sorry?
Our photographer. Took our pictures before the
Yes.
meeting.
Thank you to all of you for showing up and doing that. It really helps the public, so I appreciate it. Thank you, Tim, for pulling up my presentation. All right. So it is that time of year where I'm coming here to talk to you about the legislative priorities. Just for some background, the Executive Office identifies the legislative priorities we have, and we do that by looking at things that we've been talking about as a city, also reviewing the Island County Council of Governments, the Association of Washington Cities priorities, as well as WCIA, so that we can see some of the things that are out there that we need to address. So with this year, we've made some changes, as you can see. So what we did is the categories that we have are invest in our community, housing availability, public records, support NASWE, of course, Naval Air Station Woodby Island, revise property tax cap, tort reform, and recruit and retain first responders. We want to make sure that we're supporting those areas. So our next steps for this are going to be that we are going to receive your input today. Then we're going to return in December to approve the resolution, and then we will add this list of priorities to the website, and then we'll send it out to our legislators, and then we'll work on some of those federal grants and other priorities. So with that, I want to see if you have any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Sabrina. That was quick. We'll turn to council for questions, input. Yes, Councilor Stuckey.
I have a few.
Okay, go for it.
Let's see here. I guess I'm looking for a little bit better description on some of these.
Okay.
For example, public records. That seems more like an internal thing than a legislative priority.
It is a legislative, oh, Blaine, did you want to take that one? Oh, okay. Sorry. So it is a legislative priority because several cities are talking about this. Municipalities are dealing with this as a forefront, also county government. People are asking for these public records, but we don't have the appropriate fees set up so that we can actually charge people for the amount of work or the necessary equipment behind the scenes to manage that. So all cities are talking about it and trying to address that. Blaine, did you have something that I might have
Yeah, I'll
missed?
just add to that a little bit. She alluded to the Council of Governments, and so we're working on legislative priorities there from the other cities, and I know Langley, this is a major priority of them. They've got a lawsuit against them. So we're looking ways to prove it. We've already talked to our legislator on it, and so for a small fee, people can ask for just a ton of information that requires a ton of time. So certainly we want to have the openness there. So, and interesting, because I kind of thought to myself when I heard them talking about other municipalities, I thought, well, this isn't a big deal. Then I went and talked to my own staff internally, and I got a different story. So we felt like we should add this as part of a partnership with the other municipalities that are making this a priority and looking for solutions, such as charging people for what the value of what they're looking for. And so certainly we're not interested in suppressing the right of asking for public records, but we need to do some kind of equity there and to get it under control, because we fund a position and a half just full-time looking at public records.
So, and maybe this is a rudimentary question. So there must be a level of what we can charge. We can't just charge more on our own. There has to be, otherwise this wouldn't be a legislative priority.
The statute currently has a limitation, but in
Okay.
other states, they don't have that. They're able to actually charge for the amount that it costs. So that's something that has come up that we thought would be a good thing to add so that we can address that.
Okay. Tort reform. What's wrong with it? Why does it need to be reformed?
I'll take
let
that
Blaine
one.
take that one.
That's another one.
I don't want to just blindly sign off. I'm just curious
No,
what each
no,
of these
you're-
things mean. So
So we're a member of a pool, Washington Cities
Insurance Association.
Insurance Authority. And so I'm also on the legislative committee of that. And so there's a lot of efforts there by the trial lawyers and other organizations to make it easier to sue, make it easier to get larger sums, and to drive up our rates. And so there's a real worry there that if a lot of these laws continue to pass, that we'll end up having to curtail money away from our programs and put it into insurance premiums that will go up as a result of that. So as part of that initiative and part of being on the committee for representing the WSA, the legislative committee there, I made it a priority, and I committed to asking the council to make that a priority too. And in the packet last month, I believe you got a nice flyer in there from the WCI that talked about it, and we took that whole page thing and kind of consolidated down into a couple of sentences here to capture why we felt this is a priority.
Yeah, they had a specific ask in that 2-page document, so we focused on that.
Okay, the property tax cap, people love paying property tax. We need to, we need to increase that, apparently. We're not bringing in enough that we need to keep that to 3%. Oh, and there's our finance guy. That didn't take much. Where's the cake? Come on. It's surprised not behind me.
I
Let's
can
hear
answer
it.
this if you'd like. So you notice how every year we have to bring to the council before November 30th this 1% increase item to the council. And as you know, the limit right now is 1% per year. And of course, all cities, including ours, costs go up by more than that 1% a year. I mean, we're lucky to have a pretty diversified revenue base. We have sales tax, we have utility taxes, we also have property taxes. Other cities are a lot more property tax reliant, and the 1% cap tends to hurt them more than most. But most cities, there's this inherent structural imbalance due to that cap throughout Washington State, and what ends up happening is every so often, maybe 8 to 10 years, some cities have to come and ask for a levied lid lift just to kind of catch up to not do anything extra like we did with our fire station, but just they do a levied lid lift just to keep their head above water. So there's a lot of pressure from cities on the state to do something about that 1% limit. And there was a bill last year that died that was going to bring that up to 3%. So I believe we're looking to support some kind of change to that 1% in the next legislative session. Is that correct, Sabrina?
Correct.
But it seems like our financial health, not that it may always be so, is doing all right. So are we just doing this, we're putting this as a legislative priority more to get on board with other cities who are struggling as opposed to our own city? I mean, if we don't raise it, if we just keep raising it by the 1%, it seems like we're doing okay.
Well, we're doing okay. That's because we have other revenues, like sales tax has been doing really well for the past few years. But when a recession hits, sales tax is usually the first indicator of a problem, and sales tax actually goes down. So with a main revenue source like sales tax going down, with real estate revenue maybe dropping as well during a recession, we kind of get into a position where, yes, the 1%'s been doing fine so far, but then we might get stuck in a place where, well, our sales taxes are dead for 3 years, our property tax only goes up 1%, and we might get stuck in a position where it would have been great to have a different cap than the 1%.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with having the tool to have that go to 3%, but we look at that 1% every year and it's almost automatic. I would hate for this to go through on a legislative priority and come to fruition, and then that 3% becomes the automatic. That's kind of what I'm trying to avoid.
I wouldn't think it would be automatic, because I believe, we have you on the board for at least a few more years, so we definitely have a nice robust discussion every time it would come up.
Wow. Well put. Well put. Okay, that's kind of a drum mic question. I was just struggling a little bit, because if you look at the legislative priorities from last year, they're a little more ambiguous. Infrastructure, housing, economic development, NASWE, public safety, environment, and transportation. I mean, I think the average person can get their mind around that. When you put things like tort reform, public records, again, I'm always thinking of how do we translate this to the average person? And it's specific this time, and maybe that's okay. Maybe it's more dialed in, and that's what we're going for. It's just a little harder to wrap your mind around some of these without a lot more context. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Appreciate the comments. Thank you.
So just out of curiosity, do we have a goal that we're trying to get these done by, for the 2024?
Typically, what we do is, like I said, I'll bring it back to council for the resolution to approve them next month, and then we send them out, we post them on the website, that type of process. So usually it's next month that we'll get those out to folks.
Yeah, and we like to have those when we go to Olympia.
Correct.
I know, I won't be there this year, darn it, but there will certainly be a contingent going down. Councilor Wiesner, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, I'm going to have to jump in and say, you know, as much as I want to support the League of Cities in our insurance pool, you know, the tort reform, you know, I guess I'm not so thrilled about it. What I'd like to see there is us to continue the discussion that we started with our legislators last year about some sort of relief on some of the loans for our sewage treatment facility, right? The reality is it does not benefit the state of Washington in any way, shape, or form with the other cities having to start to conform to the Clean Water Act. To have them reach out to us and find out that the construction of our facility raised our rates to the point they did, you know, to be unaffordable for our citizens, right? The state has as much incentive as we do to keep our utility rates affordable, to set an example for those cities that have to step up to the type of quality water that we're delivering back into the Puget Sound, right? And I think we need to continue to bang that drum. You know, we obviously got some traction with it last year with an offer of a, you know, refinance offer. Obviously, it wasn't something we were able to live with and you know, pass that on to our kids as grandkids, right? But we got traction with it, and I think we need to keep beating that drum, and I think that's something that's going to have a direct effect upon the city and our citizens. So I'd like to see that slid into that spot. And certainly we can, you know, support our insurance pool and Association of Washington Cities, you know, through signing on to their endorsements of that. I know that's going to be a subject of discussion they're going to have, and we can certainly support them through those discussions. And, you know, as far as the vagueness, I always actually had a problem with the vagueness. And so I kind of like this format a little more, where we're being a little bit more direct. You know, we're catching their eye. We're saying, hey, this is a situation that we're having that we need, that's going to directly affect our city and our constituents. You know, we particularly need some help with. Obviously, we've been doing a good job of trying to start to digitize all this stuff, and you know, I'm hoping that the public request thing starts to become less and less of a burden, but there is a huge cost in building up that infrastructure and getting to the point where that's not a burden. Right now, we're burdening that upon our taxpayers, and it sure be nice if the state who writes the laws about what we can charge and the requirements for presenting that stuff, that maybe they can help us out a little bit. So I kind of like the format, but I'd sure like to see us continue to beat that drum involving relief. I think it's there at the state level, and I think the state has to understand it's certainly in their best interest to sit down and have that discussion with us.
Okay, thank you.
Great input. Thank you. Councilor Munz?
Thank you, Mayor. As far as the public records go, I can't remember what city on the way to Gold Bar went bankrupt because of public records. They didn't have a copy machine. And two women who were upset with something barraged them with requests, and they went bankrupt. So the county had to take over, like the EMS, and some other cities did this and this and this. They went bankrupt. There was one person, and I forget the city, when you're on AWC board, you hear a lot of other stuff. He called every Monday to one particular police department. I want all your 911 calls for last week. Do you know how long it takes to redact names and different things that can't be there? Hours and hours and hours. This, yes, you don't want to limit but there are certain things you can't give out, and it does. Well, it's just digitalized. All you have to do is do a button. No, you have to go through that, and it still takes hours. And so this isn't something simple. You want to be open. You want people to come and ask questions. It's better if they show up to ask you, but it really costs a lot. The sales tax. In the last recession, when Doug Merriman was our finance, we had about 5 years of recession, and we lost the sales tax. We lost minimum 18% of our income for the city. Anybody who left because they moved or had orders, whatever, we couldn't afford to rehire. If someone, we were so down, and now we're not just double learning, we're triple learning, 3 different jobs, especially in public works. So these are big deals. Yes, we're going along well right now. We're doing really well. But that recession hits, and you never know, and it is serious, and you've got to be mindful of that. No, I don't. If we had to go, but if to 3%, okay. But if we don't need it, we don't need it. But there's a lot to think into that. So, and then the last thing is, AWC is advertising openings on a lot of their committees. And if you really want to be in the know, go to their website, figure out what committee you might fit on, but it's a wealth of information that I can't even explain. I was on it for 13, 14 years, and it was great to come back and say, hey, Public Works, they're going to be opening this up, or Police Department, they have grants to hire, but in 3 years you're going to have to start paying for that officer. But it just, you hear about things just a little bit early, or take time to read your newsletter, which seems really big, but just go through the departments. It's a wealth of information. So if you really want to be in the know and understand a little more, look to AWC and be on one of the things. Thank you. Thank you, Sabrina. I appreciate it.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I agree. I like the specificity of this. I thought I heard Alana, our public records person downstairs, cheering during your comments.
We do have Woo session in our meeting, so.
Yeah, that's an entire thing. So I remember, in terms of the property tax cap, it reminds me of when the car tabs initiative passed. Everybody loved the idea of $35 car tabs, and so that passed without any consideration to the number of programs that were funded and services that were funded through that. And the property tax cap at 1% is very much along the same lines of the similar things. So, and that was, in fact, last time we had this conversation, I asked if inflation is going up at 3+% every single year, and we're only increasing something 1% every year. I mean, eventually we won't be able to be caught up. And so it is nice to have the option. Obviously, we would never raise anything any higher than absolutely needed to happen to be able to provide services, but it would be nice to have the option, because that it's so limiting. And it's especially limiting because we're responsible for financing all of the regulations that the state puts on us. If we build a thing, we have to follow all of their rules and do all the things that they want us to do, but we have to pay for it. So that is getting more and more difficult every year. And I liked Councilor Wiesner's idea of having the financial relief as a separate priority. It's kind of rolled into the invest in our community, secure additional funding to support facility and transportation needs, improve the city's infrastructure, fund the expansion of services, including broadband, marina, Highway 20, the ferry system. All good things, but you know what, there's so much encompassed in that one description that it might make sense to address investment in terms of aging infrastructure and service expansion, but also prioritize financial relief for the things that we have already paid for and are on the hook for. It might make sense to to drill down a little more on those. Not that tort reform isn't relevant or important, but I think the investment priority, it's certainly my biggest priority. It might just be a little too all-encompassing.
Okay.
And I think that the need for financial relief might get lost in that message somewhere. But otherwise, these are, with the exception of maybe the tort reform that I didn't, know needed to be a priority, this is like the exact list that I would have come up with in terms of creating or identifying my priorities. Let's see, do I have anything else? No, I don't, just explore the option of making the investment in our community and asking for financial relief two separate things. Otherwise, I think it looks great. I really appreciate the detail.
Okay, thank you for that feedback.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Anyone else? Yes, Councilor Marshall.
Thank you, Mayor. I struggle with the property tax one a little bit, and it's not just the city, right? If this goes into effect, it's also the same rate for the county. Is that also correct? So the county.
Yeah, I believe it does affect cities and counties, but we'd have to look into that a little bit more. I'm not sure about the special districts, though. They have different rules, but it might affect them too.
And I guess one of the things I struggle with is we've talked about the potential loss of sales tax during a recession. During a recession, everybody's hurting, not just the city, but everybody. And so we're then going to put the burden on property owners who are also struggling. And so, I have a hard time with that. This is something that's been, it says, in place for more than 20 years. It's something that we've had to deal with. We've had to manage that. In times of economic trouble, I hate to we need more money, so we're going to put it on the backs of the property owners who are also hurting at the same time. And so just thinking in that regard, I have a hard time with that a little bit. I do agree with Councilmember Wiesner in prioritizing some of that debt relief, because it is and it kind of goes back towards one of last year's priorities in environmental sustainability. I mean, what we are putting out into the sound is important, and it's being a requirement of other municipalities. And so if we can show that that's an affordable process or something that is sustainable, then I think that I would like to see that as a continued priority. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Council.
So would you like to, just to make sure that I'm clear, would you like to see a revised version come back in December before we finalize with the resolution? Or are you okay with just changes and moving to the resolution? Just so I get a good sense of what you're looking for. You'd like to see a revised version? Okay. I'm seeing head nods, so I'm going to bring it back as a revision at the next workshop. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina. Okay, we'll go to our next and last item on the agenda, other than council comments, and that would be City Administrator's report. We'll turn to our City Administrator, Blaine Oborn. Blaine?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Oak Harbor City Administrator Blaine Oborn, and I just want to acknowledge and thank the staff for their efforts in a lot of the items today, and really just demonstrating their effort to streamline processes and make the city run better and help improve things for our citizens we serve. So with that, I'll just go ahead and highlight some of the areas from my report, and so hopefully you read it every month, and a lot of your questions you might have are in there, and that's the goal there of doing this report monthly to you. So under leadership, we conducted a successful all-hands meeting here with a theme of can we build it? Yes, we can. And staff really and some of the council members really had a great time playing with Legos and really applying that to lessons learned from what we do in city and providing services there. So, and then I want to acknowledge Sabrina Combs, our Executive Service Administrator, did a presentation at the Oak Harbor Chamber on November 16th. She did an excellent job there. One of the things we did relating to a grant, we withdrew the Rural County Economic Development Grant request for North Whidbey sewer expansion. It just became pretty complicated to tie that into housing, so, but certainly that's a need, and we'll look at efforts in doing that in the future. We do have a tentative date for our upcoming retreat here, City Council retreat. So we want to do a survey of council members that are available for Monday, February 12th from 8 to 4. So we'll put an email on that, check your calendar, and want to see that everybody's available, and then wanted to let you know so you can start reserving that date there. So we have a location, tentative location, and we've already working on the facilitators and some of the topics there. So. And then also marking your calendars for the AWC action days. That's when we want to definitely get our legislative priorities done, because that's one of the things we can really get some face-to-face with our legislatures and talking about our legislative priorities there. So on to development services. We are all working as a team here on our central development area. So in addressing the Midtown area, the marina, and the downtown, and looking at ideas to really sub-area plan that would enhance those areas there. Finance audit is going on. And over to Park and Recreation. Under Parks Division, we have our new park supervisor, Brandon Cable, started on November 20th. So we can reach out to meet him. And then we do have a new Christmas tree in the downtown. So the first one broke, but they got it fixed and got a new one. Sometimes trees aren't as strong as they look, and so, but staff did a good job of getting that addressed and moving on. So Christmas has to go on. So with that, I'll take any questions or comments you have.
Thank you. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Just quickly, the City Action Days falls on a week where we're having a workshop, a council workshop, I think.
So we're going to set our schedule, so we'll try to correlate that with the schedule, so we may adjust it.
Okay. Yeah, because I know that we've
good
revised our
point.
schedule through the end of the year, but not necessarily January. Okay. Thanks.
Councilor Stuckey.
Just for clarification, economic development, I saw that under your report, and I see the 3 items there. Is that what Steve McCaslin did or what you did?
It's a combination.
Okay. I guess the reason I ask is come January, it'll be 1 year since we acquired our economic development coordinator. And that is a 2-year, we approved that for 2 years. I'd like to get a little more information on what that position has done tangibly. I understand it takes time to get that up and running and going, but when I voted for that, I was really big on tangibility, and I haven't seen a lot of that, but maybe that is because it just hasn't been in a place where I've accessed it. So it would be nice, because if I'm going just by this, our economic person went to 4 meetings and that's it. That was all that they did for that month. That doesn't seem like a value proposition for us. I'm sure he did more, but I don't see it.
I did it in my last month's report. I did
Okay.
an extra.
I'll go back and look at
I
that.
did an extra subsection in
Okay.
there that went into detail, and I know the mayor's been asking for those. It's a good,
Sure.
it's a good question, and the mayor's been asking that, and we've been providing more planning on that. And then he's had a lot of items on the agenda where you can see him working, and that's one of the ways
has.
I wanted to make sure he had items on the agenda so you can see. SEDS is one of the areas he was working on. The central development area, he's very active in that area. So, but certainly we'll continue to provide information there so you can make a good sound judgment.
I suppose it would be nice when he hits the 1 year mark in January, just if he could give us kind of an accounting of what he does. Again, it's, to me, and we may not all agree, it's all about the tangibility. I was looking for more than someone putting some statistics on a website, and I'm sure he's doing it. So if at the year mark, he could kind of give us, a recap of everything he'd done, just to make sure that we're getting value in that position. Thank you.
Councilor Munns.
Thank you, Mayor. The staff, it looks like Christmas downtown. It looks like an old-fashioned town. and it looks wonderful, and even though it's not December 1st, it just lifts up your spirit. So it looks great, so please be sure everyone knows. I'm with Councilman Stuckey. I mean, other EDC persons we have kind of were a recruiter too on bringing in businesses, and I haven't heard anything about that. It's one thing to work on websites, it's one thing to go to these meetings, but it's another thing. Tangible is, hey, through the county EDC, you know, we were able to bring in. I can remember Sharon Hart talking to Mayor Jim Slowick saying, hey, I found someone who's interested, but it's really in the north end, and I think you should take it from here. And this is what they're looking for, and we were able to bring in waste management, and they were here for a while. New building got built, some people got some education. If you worked for them, they helped with education that was in business. They'd pay for hours that you took. So, but I haven't heard of anything. We have people building houses, but I don't think that's because EDC is helping bring in other builders or whatever. So I don't know, I haven't done that job, but it just seemed like through the few EDC people we've had, this is something that they did. So, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I think we've got some great input there.
Thank you.
And before I turn to council, I just want to take us back to that all-hands meeting. I got a real eye-opener for a couple of the presentations during that meeting, especially the crew that put together, and I know Sabrina was a big part of that. I know staff, just the reports when we had our park and rec guy diving into the lagoon and swimming all the way to the marina in a suit and then climbing out at the marina. I mean, I was trying to tell my family about that. And of course, where I live, you can see almost that entire distance. And wow, what a swimmer. What a great fun. But the most fun for me was the farewell Alvider thing tonight and the skit that you put on, and staff showed me some talent there and had fun together. I know doing it, and I sure appreciate it. Thank you so much. So I'll turn to City Council now. Any final comments or? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Just want to say thank you to Chief Dresker, who is retiring tomorrow. Is tomorrow? Tomorrow's the day. It's been 7 years, and he was exactly what this city needed and what the police department needed. I can never adequately put into words or express or quantify how much he has done for this city. So I wish him a happy retirement. We will miss him. And I also want to congratulate Captain Slowick on his appointment as interim chief until we go through the whole process of recruiting and hiring a new chief. So I think when Tony and I were students together at Oak Harbor High School, neither one of us would have ever imagined that we would be sitting up here. So, so thank you to Chief Dresker, and congrats to Tony, and that is it. Thanks.
That is an interesting thought in high school and what we thought about it, and here we are. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. That was great. Anyone else? Got any other comments? Well, hopefully you can make the retirement party. I believe that's at 2:00 at our, what do we call that? Our conference center there at our clean water facility, our interpretive center. That's right. So they are. The Phil-Am. Is it the 19th that we have that? Yes, the 19th.
Early before they're coming right at the very beginning. Oh, okay. Are we supposed to wear Christmas sweaters? We actually, we didn't mind having, we are having a Christmas sweater day here at the city. I'm not sure off the top of my head which day that is. Sabrina might know.
What is that? What?
Send that out to you.
Yeah, let's do that.
It's a Christmas day.
Oh, that day. Oh, yeah, that day. Yeah. Okay. Seeing no other business then, we'll adjourn this